speakers today are Mary Altpeter and Serena Weisner, who are with the Alliance, and they're leading our rollout of the Arthritis Foundation's Walk with Ease mini grant expansion program. So thank you, Mary and Serena, and go ahead and get started.
Okay, thank you, Allison, and thank you all who are on the call. The information that we're going to be covering is in the request for applications that we sent out, so this is a review of that, and we'll be able to answer any questions you might have. You see before you the timeline. On July 5th, we released the request for applications. Today we are having the webinar, and as Allison just said, it will be recorded and you can come back to it and listen to it at another time at the Alliance website. Emails of intent are due on August the 15th. You can see here in bright red, they are required. Now, an email of intent is not binding. That is, you may submit an email of intent and then decide later that you do not want to submit a full application. But they are required because once you send in your email of intent, we will send you a confirmation email and assign to you a unique identifier for your online application. This year, the applications, as I said, are online, and you will need this online identifier, specific identifiers, so that you can come and go out of the application as often as you need to. So the email of intent is due at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time on the 15th. The full application is due 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time on October 16th. We will send out the applications for external review, and we will compile recommendations and approvals and send out notice of awards December the 15th. And we're looking for a start date for the mini grant for January the 2nd, 2018, and this is a one-year grant. The goal of this request for applications is to expand the availability and the reach of the self-directed and instructor-led formats of the Walk with Ease program. We are particularly interested in receiving applications from entities that have well-established evidence-based health promotion program delivery systems already in place. This is primarily because the grant is only 1 year, and so you'll need to hit the ground running with implementing Walk with Ease. We are looking for applicants who can strategically leverage the collaborations they currently have with other community partners, their own existing resources, and their current program delivery efforts, all with the goal of expanding the dissemination and delivery of the Walk with Ease program, and also working towards models of sustainability and ongoing funding. Now, a bit about the Walk with Ease program itself. It's an evidence-based program designed to assist adults with arthritis to better manage their condition. It can be offered, as I said before, in 2 formats over a 6-week period. There's an instructor-led group format that meets 3 times a week over those 6 weeks, and then there's a self-directed program that an individual can do on their own. Both formats use the Walk with Ease workbook, which includes step-by-step information for developing a lifestyle of walking, motivational tools and strategies to set and monitor realistic goals for improving fitness, tips for arthritis symptom management, and appropriate stretching and strengthening exercises to protect joints and minimize pain. The instructor-led group format must be led by a certified Walk with Ease leader who is also certified in CPR. Now, for more information about the Walk with Ease program itself, the various tools that are associated with it, those tools are both in the workbook as well as they're online. And there's information about the costs of the workbook, how you go about ordering the workbook. There also is information about the instructor training and the training requirements. So to find all of that information, go to this website. Website. It's the arthritis.org website, and you can type in the search engine Walk with Ease, and all of this will pop up. Now, with regard to eligibility criteria, I'm going to mention two entities that are not eligible. The first is individuals. This grant is only awarded to organizations. Secondly, we currently have a cycle of grantees this year. They are not eligible to reapply for funding. Funds will be made to employing entities including community organizations, state, local, tribal health departments, 501c3, nonprofit organizations, professional organizations, colleges, universities, and private corporations. Entities may only apply for one award, and if the entity is not based in the U.S., it may apply for the award provided the Walk with Ease program implementation is located in the U.S. There will be 12 awards for up to $5,000 each for a period of 1 year. Now, to apply, you must enroll a minimum of 150 participants in the English version of Walk with Ease. At the moment, there is a Spanish version of the workbook. However, there is not a Spanish version of the instructor training, and so we are not focusing on the Spanish version, which is called Camina con Gusto. There is no licensure fee for offering Walk with Ease, but there is a fee for certifying the Walk with Ease leaders. That fee is at the moment $89. Funds will support the implementation of the Walk with Ease program and will not support the development of new programs or other arthritis-appropriate evidence-based programs. You may use funds to pay for the Walk with Ease Leaders training that is offered through the Athletics and Fitness Association of America. You can also use funds for paying for the CPR training fees for those leaders. Some organizations, as a routine, do background checks on full and part-time employees, and so fees for doing background checks is permissible. Purchase of Walk with Ease workbooks, of course, is permissible, and at the moment the fee is $4.95 per book plus shipping. You may also include pedometers in your budget. These may be used as incentives, and they are available through the Arthritis Foundation's store. You may use funds also for the printing of marketing materials such as brochures, posters, and postage, and for your leader manuals. When your leaders are trained through the Athletics and Fitness Association of America, they get a PDF file of the instructor's guide, and so when they download that, it's a large file. You may want to print it for them. You may also put into your budget fees for instructor travel to various sites with a maximum of $500. We would like to note here that, in particular, we're putting caps on this as well as on administrative costs, which cannot be more than 20% of your budget. The reason for this primarily, again, is because the purpose of the grant is not only to deliver the program, but then to work towards a sustainability model. We do not want the entity applying to become dependent on these funds. Other requirements. Everyone who applies must offer the instructor-led group class. They may also offer the self-directed format of Walk with Ease. This is optional, but we strongly encourage it. And you may find, as you're thinking about your participants, some may be interested in the program because it meets 3 times a week for 6 weeks. They may find that schedule not doable. So self-directed format may be an alternative option that's more appropriate for them. As I said before, the Spanish language version is not funded under this initiative. You must reach 150 participants at a minimum and also actively participate in monthly calls. We conduct monthly calls with our grantees, and it's a time to discuss experiences, successful strategies, and lessons learned. In terms of reporting requirements, all grantees must track and submit data each month using an Excel spreadsheet that we would send to you. That spreadsheet includes fields for entering the baseline participant information, also fields for the post-program, which looks at participant benefits as well as satisfaction, and also has fields for the sites where you're offering the program and how many programs you're actually delivering. Grantees are also required to submit when they're doing programs to the Arthritis Foundation's Resource Finder. This is a way of helping to advertise the program. The final reporting requirements also include 2 brief reports, a short progress report about midway through the project period, and then a final report no later than 60 days after the project ends. I'm now going to turn this over to Serena.
All right. Thanks, Mary. I'm going to go ahead and go through some of the important dates and some of the application content and hopefully clarify some of the questions that may be coming in and may be popping up in your head right now. First and foremost is, of course, the email of intent, which Mary already mentioned is due on August 15th. So you've got some time to get that pulled together, and I do want to emphasize that this is required. So even if you have an inkling that you may want to apply, go ahead and submit an email of intent. As Mary mentioned, it's not binding, so we're not going to come after you if you don't end up submitting an application, but it is essential because what happens is we receive those emails of intent, and then we will go ahead and generate your organization-specific link. So you will need that link in order to complete the online application. It's very, very important. That way you can continue to log in, save your work on the application, and come back to it later. So that is very important. Here at the bottom of the slide, you'll see there is an email of intent and what it should include. I do want to point out that all of these items are listed on page 2 of the RFA, which is available on the OAAA Action Alliance website, which I'll go ahead and ask Mary to type that into the chat down at the bottom. It's oaaction.unc.edu. And if you scroll down, you'll see the announcement of the RFA, and I would go ahead and just bookmark that site, go ahead and download the RFA, and then you can copy these list of items for the email of intent and paste them directly into your email and just answer each of those. Go ahead and go to the next. So once you've got the email of intent off your to-do list, then the next thing is for the application. That is due October 16th. Again, it will be available online, and we have created this because of some feedback we received from both the applicants and the reviewers of our last round of mini grants. So we think that this process will make it much easier for all of you who are interested in applying. So again, remember, once we receive your email of intent, we will send you an organization-specific link to the online application. So make sure you save that link. So I would definitely suggest, as I just mentioned, going ahead and downloading the RFA and maybe even completing it in Word and then copying and pasting into the online application. But if that is kind of not your bag, you don't like the copy and paste feature, then you can go ahead and save what you have entered into the application and come back to it later. At the bottom of each page of the online application is a Save and Continue button so that you can save what you have already created, and then you can come back to your link and continue to work on the application if that's the way you choose to do it. Just make sure you click on that Save and Continue. And if you do that, you will notice that you get a pop-up message, and if you haven't completed a portion of that page, the message will say, indicate that you have not completed that page. But if you want to go ahead and go on and complete other areas of the application, you can go ahead and just acknowledge that you've received that notification, and you can complete the other areas of the application and come back to that if you want to work on that later. So these are the application content areas. There are a couple slides, so I'm going to go through them relatively quickly because, again, all this information is included in the RFA. So obviously the first portions are information about the applicant and contact information, as well as persons responsible for oversight, collecting the data, and reporting. There's also a statement of American Disabilities Act compliance and liability insurance, which are both required for offering the in-person group-led Walk with Ease program. These are just yes/no statements, so you'll just need to indicate that you have those items. The next item is a readiness to offer Walk with Ease. So this is how and why you can quickly mobilize Walk with Ease in your community. So things you might want to address are your history of offering Walk with Ease or other evidence-based programs, the engaged partners you have, the settings that are primed and ready to be available to offer this, instructors you maybe already have trained or are ready to be trained. Those types of things are what we're looking for in that question. Marketing strategies to recruit your participants and or possibly sites to work with you. The number and demographics of participants that you will be reaching, the number of leaders that you plan to train, and it says if applicable here because some of you may already have leaders trained in your area, so you may not be training them with these mini-grant funds. Also, the instructor-led Walk with Ease programs that you will be offering, so how many of those, and the number and types of locations where you will be delivering the program. Also, how will Walk with Ease complement your existing program offerings? So how will Walk with Ease contribute to what you're already doing, and how will it be incorporated into your existing programming and structure? This really helps us learn more about how you operate and how what the sustainability of Walk with Ease may look like in the future beyond these mini-grant funds. Additionally, we ask about any novel strategies that you may be interested in using these funds to support. So that could be some interesting marketing concepts or partnerships, or the way you plan to coordinate the program within your agency or with other partners. Also, a description of your community partners, your methods for data collection, and data security, of course, your project timeline, your description of measurable outcomes and the anticipated reach, the ongoing dissemination and sustainability plan. So, for instance, if you are going to be charging fees, if you will be implementing cost sharing or using existing resources, those types of things will be addressed in that question about dissemination and sustainability. Staff roles and responsibilities and bios, and I really do want to emphasize that while the bios are important, we really want to know each person's role in this particular project, in the dissemination of Walk with Ease and implementation of Walk with Ease. So really try and make those connections clear in your application. We ask about fidelity and quality assurance and your plans for addressing those, your budget, and your budget justification. And then optional, we have marketing materials and letters of support, and we do offer the ability to upload a file into the online application. So we give you pretty clear directions on how to gather everything into one file if you want to share all of your marketing resources and then share all of your letters of support. We give you directions on how to put those in one file and then upload them into the online application. So once we receive all of the applications, we will go put them through a peer review process. Excuse me. Each reviewer will review using a review tool and enter their reviews into a separate online review submission form. And this worked out really well for us last year, and so we are going to continue that again, or last round, I should say. Each application will be evaluated using the REAIM framework, which many of you are probably familiar with. You can find out more information about it at this website here. Each application will be ranked and scored based on reach, effectiveness, adoption, implementation, and maintenance, and their answers within each of the application questions. I do want to point out that, as Mary said, there are resources available on the Arthritis Foundation website. There's also a number of resources on the OAAA Action Alliance website. If you go to the OAAA Action Alliance website and then go to the resource library and then click on For Community Partners, you will notice a number of resources and materials there, and I would highly suggest that you check out all that information and links because some of those may help you with your planning of your strategy for this application, as well as other programs that you may also be offering. So it's really a wealth of information, and I would highly encourage you to check that out. Okay, so I know that was a ton of information all squeezed into a short lunch and learn, but we want to make sure that we go ahead and open the call now for any questions that you all may have.
Okay. No, we received quite a few questions in the chat pod, so I'm going to get started with a few of those, and then those of you who are able to talk on your phone can chime in as well. Some people asked where they'll be able to see this presentation, and it will be available on our YouTube channel, which is under the name Osteoarthritis Action Alliance, and it will be on our website on the RFA page, and as well as the event page that you registered for today. And the next question, can we only apply if we have an existing evidence-based program already?
I'll answer that one. Mm-hmm. Technically, you can apply even if you aren't already doing one, but I think you can see from what's in the application, you will be asked to demonstrate that you have in place data collection procedures, fidelity and quality assurance procedures, marketing mechanisms, etc. So you need to be able to demonstrate that you can do delivery of an evidence-based program.
Great. All right. Can we translate this Walk with Ease workbook into different Asian languages?
That's a great question, and we would love to see Walk with Ease translated. So on one hand, we commend you for that question. We are funded through the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's Arthritis Program, and they are very specific. We may only deliver programs that are evidence-based. So while the English version of Walk with Ease is evidence-based, we would not have the evidence to demonstrate that the same content, material, and approaches is as effective with an Asian population. So no, you would not be able to translate the manual as part of this grant initiative.
Thanks. Great question. The minimum person number of 150, is that for the year-long program or first 6 weeks?
It is for the year-long program. Another good question for clarity, but we're hoping that's a minimum number.
Okay. Can we use funding to cover instructor fees?
We are not covering instructor fees primarily because of the comment I made earlier. We're very careful about not building in funding dependency by virtue of this grant. That is, once the grant ends, because it's only 1 year, how will you continue with instructors? You need to build into your programs that idea of sustainability and how you would be able to continue the funding of instructors by setting that up at the beginning.
Great. The next question is about the Walk with Ease program itself. What can participants expect to experience? What does the class look like? Is this conducted in a group exercise studio setting? Just more information about the class structure itself.
Okay, another really good question. A shorthand way of answering that is if you're familiar with chronic disease self-management program, matter of balance program, some of these other evidence-based programs, it's modeled in the same way. People get together and have group discussion. They have short lecturettes with their instructor covering certain content over the 18 sessions. They then walk together. The program has been offered all over the place, not just in an exercise studio. It's been offered in aging services agencies, health departments, churches, community centers. So it's really a matter of figuring out what are good locations depending on where you are.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Please let us know in the chat pod if we're answering your questions completely as well as we work our way through them. So is there a particular ratio of instructors that best fits meeting the need for over 150 participants?
Yeah, great question again. The recommended size for the Walk with Ease classroom is 15 participants. However, some of the grantees are enrolling as many as 25 participants, but when they do that, we're recommending that you have 2 instructors. The reason for that is the safety piece, that while people are walking, you want to make sure that you're observing them and helping them. So 1 instructor for 15 participants. If you're going above that, then consider 2 instructors for the program.
Great. And I think this question might have been addressed, but good to be very clear on it. Can instructors be paid through the grant funding, or is all instructor time for the class volunteer?
Well, it's either volunteer, instructor time is volunteer, or look to resources outside of this mini grant for paying them.
Yeah. Great. And then do participants have to have arthritis?
Great question. Walk with Ease was designed specifically for people with arthritis. It includes quite a bit of content about arthritis, and about managing arthritis symptoms and about learning to exercise safely and comfortably with arthritis. So people with arthritis is the primary audience. Also, this CDC grant that we have is to reach out to people who have arthritis. So they are the primary population we're looking at. What may happen, and we see this many times in various programs, is a person who is eligible, who is the person with arthritis, wants to come to the program, but they want to bring a buddy with them who may or may not have arthritis. It's fine to include that other person, but focus very much on people with arthritis as your target population.
All right. And I just want to do a quick shout out to build on the other previous question about what the class structure is like. We do have a Class 0 video available on our YouTube channel that kind of gives a better idea about what the classes entail and has some interviews from participants. So definitely check that out if you have more questions on the Walk with Ease class itself. And we have just a few more questions. I know it's past our 30-minute time mark, but for those of you who are able to stay on, we will keep answering questions as long as you keep asking. Can grantees charge for grant-funded programs?
Yes, they may charge a fee for participants to be in the program. We found in this year that for some of our grantees, charging fees is the customary practice for all the programs in the agency. So we don't want to disrupt the typical agency process.
All right. Is the minimum 150 participants mean enrolled and active, or does it mean complete all sessions?
I didn't hear the first part of the question.
Oh, yeah. Is the minimum of 150 participants mean, I think, how do you define complete the program, or enrolled and active, or complete all the sessions?
Okay, well, we're looking for enrollment of 150 participants at a minimum, and the completion is considered roughly 2/3 of the program. So indeed, we want to follow participants across the 6 weeks of the program, whether they're doing it self-directed or in the classroom. As I mentioned earlier, there is a post-program survey that we will ask people to participants to complete. It would be very helpful if you have attrition to find out from individuals why they dropped out. And as I mentioned before, you may have some who started in on the classroom and then for whatever reason over the 6 weeks felt they can't keep up with attendance, and so they might switch over to self-directed.
That kind of builds on the next questions. The next one was about the requirements of completing the program for a participant to be considered complete. And then building on that again, is there any guidance on what percentage of interested participants end up wanting to do the self-directed version?
I'm not sure I understand the question. Is it asked of the 150, is there a percentage that can be self-directed? I'm not sure what the question is.
I think so, or how many interested end up choosing to do self-directed. I think that also depends on what you offer. If you're, for this person asking the question, if you're offering both, I guess how many end up doing self-directed?
Oh, well, we are in the process of rolling out the program this year, so we don't have actual data of how many started in the classroom and then switched. Some folks are going to stay in the classroom version. I'm not suggesting that you start classroom and then switch them over. I'm just saying that can happen. We did not set up percentages of you have to have X% in the classroom and X% in self-directed. I think that's, again, reflecting on your own experiences in delivering the program, in delivering other evidence-based programs, thinking about what are the customary practices in your agency in offering evidence-based programs that are instructor-led, how many people you feel you can actually recruit to the instructor-led program, which you must offer under this mini-grant process. Offering the self-directed is optional.
Great. And then if someone is offering the self-directed program, those numbers count towards the 150, correct?
Yes. Yes, both formats count towards the 150.
Great.
I'd like to something, Allison, that you mentioned. I'm so glad you brought up the Class 0. That is the video that is online in our community partner section of the Action Alliance website, and I had listed that URL for you. That is for the community partner section of our website. For those of you who are not familiar with the term Class 0, that's like an orientation. So if you think of your program as having 18 sessions starting with number 1, this is the session that precedes the first session, and it is intended to orient participants and possibly individuals who might want to become leaders, to orient them to the program. So I totally agree with Allison that you should look at the Class 0 video. It's 8 minutes. It won't take a lot of your time.
Great. Yeah, it's a very useful resource. And I think we have some more questions about just figuring out the participants in the program. So is it okay if someone starts out doing instructor-led, could they switch or finish with self-directed?
Yes.
Okay, and you can, and as far as the grant, we can count them. I assume it's
Yes.
for one person, but
yes,
for both.
Yeah, you don't double count them. You would just, you're going to follow them on the pre and the post program forms, but you can count them as a one participant.
Great. Yeah, that's a great question, especially for the rural counties, like the person who requested the question asked. And then someone has more questions about the self-directed program. Is that using our website?
Yes. In a nutshell, self-directed program is receiving, you enroll the individual into self-directed and you give them the workbook. The workbook has within the very first chapter, it has an outline of how they are to go about using the workbook. So that's what and it talks about how much walking they should do. I want to be clear with everybody on the walking. This is not a competition. We do not prescribe in the workbook how much walking a person does. We're focused on learning to walk safely and comfortably. You will likely find in your classes, you'll have some individuals who are only able to walk 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and are gradually working their way up to the 30 minutes 5 times a week that the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention Arthritis Program recommends. The workbook provides information about this to the self-directed participant, but that's all they're getting. That's it. They're just using the workbook. They read chapters of the workbook on a schedule, and then they learn about stretching and strengthening exercises, and they start their walking. There are diaries, there are self-assessment tools. For those of you familiar with the Chronic Disease Self-Management Program, at the end of every chapter, they self-rate their confidence in managing the content of the chapter. By the way, the people in the instructor-led program are using the very same workbook. It's just the instructor is guiding them through the use of that workbook.
Great. And we're giving you at the end of the questions, so if you do have any more, please type them in so we can make sure to answer them today. Do the buddies count in the 150?
Yes, everyone. count. Everyone will count who are in the program, but I want to be real clear. We don't want the buddies outnumbering the people with arthritis. The main focus of this grant and the funding of the CDC's arthritis program is to target people with arthritis. At baseline, participants will have a health status, health condition questions, and so we'll be tracking what conditions they have, and we'll be looking for the vast majority of your participants to have arthritis.
Yeah, great question. And I'm going to jump around in the order for the questions here. But how do you know if someone completes the self-directed program?
Well, what we have set up is at the end of the 6 weeks, you would distribute the survey, the post-program survey to them, and that's a time when they will let you know whether or not they have actually read the workbook and walking.
Mm-hmm. Great. And then the last question that I have would be, does the RFA describe the desired and required outcomes?
The RFA describes that we are going to be tracking for how many participants have completed the program, have enrolled and completed the program, and the post-program survey does track their walking, their satisfaction with the program, some brief measures of their changes in their health and their arthritis. The main measurable objectives we want you to be thinking about is how many people you will be able to reach with this program.
Great. Is there communication between leader and participant to monitor progress during the program?
Well, certainly there's communication between the leader and the participants in the meeting of classes 3 times a week. There is not a programmed communication between the leader or program administrator and those who are self-directed. The self-directed is really, think of it as a on your own. It is up to your organization and to you and the people involved in your program if you want to maintain some kind of email listserv or some sort of touching base with the self-directed. That could be a great way to help support those participants who are doing the program on their own.
Okay. Well, I think that might be the end of our questions. Thank you for taking all those questions, Mary. Well, maybe a few more typing in, but thank you all very much for that.
Okay, I see some.
Oh, there's another one. Okay. Can our staff participate?
Can staff participate if they have with these programs? If they can commit to times a week or they want to do it self-directed, fine. Again, this program is targeted to individuals with arthritis, so assuming they have arthritis as a health issue they want to address.
Great. And then what happens if there's cold, rainy, or inclement weather?
Yes, and one can also have hot weather where it's just unbearable to be outdoors. Walk with Ease workbook, as well as in the instructor training. There are recommendations for thinking about walking during inclement weather. More often than not, what we have seen is some community organizations are conducting the walking indoors, or they are taking participants to the nearby mall and walking indoors at the mall. So there are suggestions in both the workbook and in the instructor's manual of how one might tackle that very issue.
Great question. The weather can definitely be unpredictable and not ideal. So I'll wait just a minute to see if any other questions come in, but I just want to thank everyone for joining us today. Oh, another question. Can Walk with Ease be implemented by a small business?
Businesses can apply for this mini grant, yes. Again, just like all the other entities that would be applying, we would be looking for evidence of being able to implement, having a track record in implementing evidence-based programs. Again, it isn't that we're trying to exclude people. We're just very aware that this is only a year-long grant, and we expect those that apply and are awarded will be able to get up and running in order to meet that goal of at least 150 participants over the course of the year.
Yeah, great question. I'll wait just a minute more. I know we keep getting a few questions coming in. But our next webinar will be August 16th with Sandra Soto, who will be presenting on leisure time physical activity among Latinas. So definitely tune in for that. And again, we will have this presentation on our website and our YouTube channel. And we can put a PDF version of the slides up as well for you to continue to look back to for more information. Looks like one last question. If the grant begins in January, we want to walk outside, but January through March is very snowy here in Michigan. Is it okay for our program to begin later in the year or end in October or November? And end October, November.
For all of you in Michigan, I feel your pain during the winter, but the bottom line is this is only a year-long grant, and based on our own funding cycle, we need programs to start up at the startup time in January and end at the 12 months. What I would recommend is you consider where are indoor sites where people can be doing their walking during January, February, and March.
Yeah, great, thanks.
Well, let me just add one other thing. We are noticing from the grantees who we have this year is there's a startup time where they are recruiting their leaders and getting the leaders trained. Getting the leaders trained is relatively easy in the sense that it's online training, but sometimes it takes a while to get the leaders recruited and also to get the marketing materials set up. There are, as Serena said, marketing materials are available online, but they are generic marketing materials, are absolutely welcome to tailor them to add your organizational information. So you may find that you're not actually offering the walking program out of the gate January 2nd. You may set your first program for the end of February or something like that. So that might help you ease the issue of where all you're going to walk during the winter.
I think that might be the last question. Again, I'll hold on just for a minute in case you have anything else that comes up. But I've posted a survey you could take to give us some feedback on today's webinar. And just thank you for joining us. And you can definitely look for more information on our website, going to our main homepage, oaaction.unc.edu. So if you can stay on, please feel free to stay on and continue asking questions, but I understand you all need to sign off online. Are the books used as a lending library, or are we required to give each participant a book for themselves?
That's a great question. So workbooks were designed to be exactly that, a workbook. So in the workbooks, there are self-assessment tools, there are action plans, there are diaries. So the intent was the individual would receive their workbook and use it to write in things like their self-assessments and their action plans and their diaries. Some organizations right now this year are thinking about loaning the workbooks to participants and then recycling them as a way of saving money, or at the end of the course selling the workbook to the individual. If that is the case, you either are just loaning the workbook to the individual for the duration of the course. Keep in mind that it means you have an additional cost of replicating the self-assessments, the diaries, the action plans, etc. So it's kind of a draw as to which is most helpful. The workbook was designed in such a way to be kind of a resource guide, and as such, we'd sure love to see participants be able to keep it and continue to reference it beyond the course of the 6 weeks that they're in the program.
Another great question about what type of organizations can apply for the project. Is it only state agribility projects, or who can apply?
Well, as we said in an earlier slide, it's really open to community-based organizations, to universities, to hospitals, to 501c3 organizations. It's a wide open. It is not limited to agri-ability projects by any means.
We will be posting some of these questions on our website as well to have an online FAQ, because some of the questions asked today other people might be asking, so definitely look out for that as well. If your organization had 8 instructors, is the 500-mile limitation per instructor or per grant?
It's 500 miles per grant.
Yeah, but do you have any final thoughts, Mary or Serena, that you would like to put out there before we end the call or in the webinar?
I appreciate all the thoughtful questions that we've had here. I hope that the answers have encouraged you instead of discouraged you. Serena, do you have any other information or pointers, comments you want to give?
No, I think the only other thing is just to continue to get in touch with us. If you have more questions, we'll get back to you, and we'll continue adding to the FAQ page that we're going to be developing. So,
presenting again today and answering all of these questions. I hope it was very informative for everyone. And it looks like Serena has just put her email in the chat box. So if you have any other questions, feel free to email her or Mary, and Mary's contact information is on the screen. If we don't have any questions in the next 30 seconds or so, we'll go ahead and end the webinar for today. But look out for the recorded version on our website, the slides, and the FAQ page that we will be developing based on the questions today as well.